The radical, fundamental principles of freedom, rational self-interest, and individual rights. This is the Yaron Brook Show.
All right, everybody, welcome to Yaron Brook Show on this Wednesday, February 11th. I hope everybody is doing well, having a good week. Let's see. I see Linda. It's Linda's birthday today. So happy birthday, Linda. That is great. Congratulations. And wow, we got two reviews already, $100 each. So thank you guys for the reviews, song reviews. Very cool. All right, maybe they're inspired. I'm not sure what show they're inspired by, but we were talking about songs in my public speaking class. Somebody did a talk on, he's a songwriter, on kind of how to write song lyrics and how to make them emotionally appealing. And John, it's as if John sat in on that class and is asking a question relating to that. So interesting. All right, let's see what I want to do. We've got a bunch to talk about today. Let me also say to Linda. Linda, here's my birthday present to Linda. I'm almost finished with the first of Quint's books, so I'm almost finished with it, and I'll review it when I'm done. So I'm enjoying it. Oh, what can I say? I'm really enjoying it. Now, I haven't gotten to the end, right? If it wasn't Quint, I would be really worried about the end of this first book, but we will see. So I'll do a quick review of it when I'm done. I'm really enjoying it. All right, let's see. Shows the rest of the week. Shows until basically we're gonna have a show every single day until the 26th. We might have a show on the 26th and the 27th. Probably not on the 28th. But yeah, it's just gonna be a month where every day this show, Saturdays and Sundays, and we're just gonna blow it out. So stay tuned. Times might shift a little bit today. I had to take my wife to the airport, so it had to be later. Next week, I think I have to pick her up. But anyway, we'll figure out the times and get those done, and I'll get those back to you. All right. Let's see. I'll be doing a seminar on capitalism in London. In Defense of Profits: Why Prosperity Doesn't Need Permission is the title of the workshop. It'll be 4 hours on Saturday, February 28th. You can check it out. It's at Everbright. It's the registration is in Everbright, so it's going to be really simple to register. You can check that out on my website, yaronbrookshow.com. Just scroll down to February 28th, and it'll give the link there to the Everbright page, and sign up. It'd be great. I probably want about a dozen people. I want to keep it small because I want to make it intimate. We'll also go out to dinner afterwards, and lots of opportunity to interact, to ask questions, all of that. So yeah, if you're in London, if you're in England, if you're in UK, if you're in Europe, if you're anywhere in the globe, come on over. You're welcome. We'll have a good time. Don't have the exact location. It'll be in central London. Once I know how many people are coming, I'll get a location. I'll book a location, and we can get set. But about a dozen, 10 to 12 people, 8 to 12 people, that'll be just perfect. All right. Shall we jump in? Let's jump in. All right, before we get to the first topic, which is El Paso, I want to wrap up a topic we started yesterday, the bridge to, well, somewhere, not to nowhere in this case, the bridge to Michigan, the bridge connecting Canada and Michigan. And we read Donald Trump's commentary on the bridge yesterday, and I commented on that. And, a lot of people have again accused me of TDS, and, so maybe we'll do a little bit of exercise, and we'll try to take these stories and try to present them in the best light possible, right? The best light possible. Let's pretend, let's do as if I don't have TDS and present the story in the best light possible, right? Trump claims we've lost a huge amount to Canada because we have a trade deficit with Canada. I mean, I'm trying to be positive. I'm really trying to be positive here, but that makes no sense. It makes no sense. It doesn't make any economic sense. It doesn't make any political sense. Yes, Canada charges us very high tariffs on milk products above a certain amount, and it's not really that impactful, but it does. We charge them tariffs as well. But 90% of all the goods coming in from Canada have no tariffs. So it's not a negotiating tool. So I don't know. I'm trying my best to present this as something positive. He also said that if Canada signs a deal with China, Canada will end all ice hockey. Now, I don't know. Again, put on your non-TDS hat and give me a rational explanation for that. Explain that in terms that a sane human being can understand what the relationship with trade with China is with ice hockey. Anyway, we're going to do more of these exercises as we go forward. I think at the end of the day, what we will discover, I fear what we will discover, is that TDS might be an affliction, but it is a rational affliction. That is, it is the only rational way to interpret Donald Trump. He is delusional, and we are deranged. All right. I did want to give you a little bit more color about this bridge, right? So it turns out, we talked about this yesterday, there is an alternative bridge, right? There is the bridge that exists today. And that bridge generates approximately $60 to $70 million a year, nice income if you can get it, in total revenue, and probably another $30 million a year in gas sales, which are tax-free. This is, again, a bridge that's always busy, always packed. It never stops, just 24/7. Now, the bridge, it's called the Ambassador Bridge, is actually a private bridge. It is owned by a man by the name of Matthew Morone, something like that. And this is a man, of course, who's contributed a lot in political contributions, primarily to the Republican Party. He gave over $1 million in recent years, including a large sum in 2025. He has really, since the beginning, since they started talking about a new bridge, tried to influence politicians to not approve this new bridge, basically because, he would like to keep the revenue flowing. Now, it is true that we're talking about a publicly financed bridge, so I agree that it's not fair competition. It would be better if the second bridge was also private, but I get a sense that if the other bridge was private, Mr. Morone would still be lobbying against it. In 2018, he ran ads in newspapers, I think TV as well, directly directed at Trump, trying to get Trump to block permits for the Canadian bridge. That did not succeed. They've tried to build a second span next to the Ambassador Bridge, but as I told you yesterday, because it kind of ends up in the middle of Windsor on the Canadian side, not very practical, and the traffic through Windsor is horrific. It would be incredibly congested. It wouldn't really solve the problem. And he has now. It's true that it's hard to tell, right? Because there's regulations and there's controls and there's government opposition and all kinds of legal setbacks. And who knows? In a free market, maybe he could have built a parallel bridge, an alternative bridge. In 2009, the U.S. Coast Guard, basically said, yeah, a second bridge in the same place is just not going to happen, right? And the alternative bridge built by the Canadians was proposed, and ultimately Canadian taxpayers are funding it, although the money supposedly is going to be returned to the Canadian Treasury from the toll. Toll money goes to Canada to pay for this bridge. The Maroons have fought this, and they continue to fight it. They've had lawsuits. They've lobbied their public campaign. Courts have repeatedly rejected their claims. And and here it is. So what happened? Well, what happened was that before Trump posted what he posted, the owner of the Ambassador Bridge, this guy Marone, actually made a phone call to Secretary of Commerce Howard Lutnick. Now, we don't know exactly what he said on that phone call. But, he didn't just make a phone call. Sorry, he met with him. He actually met with him in person. And this is just hours before Trump posted what he posted. And, which we read yesterday. So, yeah, I mean, a Republican contributor calls the Secretary of Commerce, tells him he's not happy with this project, encourages him to find ways to block it. And just a few hours later, the President of the United States tweets that he intends to block it. Now, if you have TDS like me, you go, yeah, I mean, this is obvious corruption, and this is all about politics, and this guy promised them money or promised to withdraw or did something. And indeed, a lot of Michigan Republicans are against the new bridge. The new bridge is already built, right? It's going to open. Costs Michigan nothing. But they're all against the bridge. Why are they against the bridge? Well, I mean, maybe, just maybe, this guy's been giving them contributions as well. Now, that is the one interpretation. I mean, another interpretation could be that Marone sat down with Lutnick and argued the case rationally and presented his arguments and clearly showed that the second bridge was no good and would somehow damage the United States and would not be in the United States' best interest, and that somehow this might cause ice hockey to disappear from Canada and the Stanley Cup to be abandoned. And that's why Trump wrote what he wrote. So, I mean, you've got a TDS interpretation, you've got a non-TDS interpretation. You get to decide. I mean, if you have an alternative interpretation, please suggest it. This super chat is open. I read all super chats. I would love a series of proposed explanations for the bridge tweet of Donald Trump yesterday from a pro-Trump perspective. Explain the tweet to us. I mean, I know, one explanation is just trolling. Okay. But no, a real explanation, right? This is the president of the United States. So, and this is a guy who told us, promised us to drain the swamp. So I want a non-swampy, pro-Trump, non-TDS explanation for what's happening with the Canadian bridge. I guess when that happens, that'll be a good challenge. By the way, Canada, in the meantime, while all this is going on, Canada is acting like the grown-up here, and it is actively attempting to diversify trade away from the United States. It can't trust the Trump administration. It knows that. So they are, as we know, they've talked to China. They're talking to the EU. I think they've already got a deal with the EU. They're talking with India. Connie was in India recently. They're talking to the Philippines, to Thailand, to the United Arab Emirates, to Saudi Arabia. They're talking to ASEAN, which is a consortium of Asian countries, and the Mercosur, which is the Latin America bloc. Sorry. they just did a deal with the EU. Canada is talking to them as well. So, yes. Canada is seeking trade deals to increase trade because it can't trust the U.S., can't trust Trump. And I think the Canadians realize that trade is win-win and beneficial. Now, I still like the idea of just unilaterally zero tariffs. I think that would be the best. And if somebody can whisper that in the ear of the Canadians, that would be great, although somebody has already. But that would be the ideal. But all right, let's jump into this El Paso story, which is comical. So I woke up this morning, and I always check the news and things happening, and check X and check any news stories, and I see this news story about the FAA had just shut down the El Paso International Airport, shut it down, and that they shut it down for 10 days, and they had closed the airspace above El Paso all the way into New Mexico, which is not that far away, but still a large swath of that area shut down to all commercial air flight below a certain altitude. Now, first I thought, no, this isn't real. This is, 10 days. and why? What the hell is going on? Is there a terrorist attack? And supposedly for some kind of security reasons, right? What's going on? UFOs have landed. I mean, was there a terrorist attack? No airspace in the United States over a major city has been shut down for any period of time, never mind 10 days, since 9/11, since the days after 9/11. And then I started reading, and no, absolutely, this is happening. And you can see the authorities have no clue why this is happening. Nobody knows. The city of El Paso is shut down. People's flights have been canceled. You can imagine, El Paso is not a small city, and people's flights have been canceled, and they don't know when the flights are going to come back because it's 10 days. The airlines have no clue what's going on. Most airlines think the flight is still going on, but the airport's shut down, completely shut down. And everybody's frantically trying to figure out okay, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Okay, why is are you guys there? Can you see anything, or is it dead completely? You are back. I am back, but the electricity, the power is not back. I'm running on batteries right now, but I'm not sure why the electricity is not coming back. What's that? All right, power's out, and why is that? One second, one of my monitors is out. I'm not sure why. That's connected. That's working. That's working. Camera's working. All right, we'll see if power comes back, and we'll see. Most of my lights are out because they're not connected to a battery. The stuff that's connected to battery seems to be working. Internet seems to be working, maybe. Let's keep going. I do need this other monitor, though, and I'm wondering how I can get it back up. Maybe I need to... Maybe it's shut off, and I need to just turn it back on. Sorry, guys. And at some point, the batteries will run out and we'll be out. No, I don't think this is Bad Bunny. Bad Bunny's song described this, but we have a generator. So the real weird stuff is, why is the generator not going on? One second, let me just put this up. All right. See if something happens. Our generator should be kicking in. And we'll see. Just get a solar home power plant with a big battery. Maximum independence. Yeah, but you can't do that in a condo building. It doesn't work that way in a condo. If I had a home, I would do that. But we have maximum independence. We have a big generator that is supposed to kick in exactly now and supply electricity, and it usually does. So the fact that it's not is suspicious and worrisome. It might mean that the generator is not working, and that would be bad. So, all right, something happened. Power's back on. Lights back on. All right. I mean, what's really cool is the fact that the battery held out, right? And we could keep going in spite of there being no power in the house. All right, power's back. We're good. All right, let's do, so anyway, this mystery in El Paso. So then there was a story about, cartel drones were flying into the United States. And the U.S. was shooting them down. And it closed the airspace because they wanted clearance, because they were worried about the drones and they worried about the shooting them down part, and that this was a big deal and a real problem. But then the question is, why are they shutting it down for 10 days? For 10 days. So it turns out that it has something to do with drones and it has something to do with shooting them down, but it was completely unnecessary, and it just put a lot of people in a, created a lot of havoc and upset for a lot of people for no reason. So it turns out that the Pentagon is planning on using a new military technology near Fort Bliss, which is not far from El Paso, and they want to practice taking down drones. It seems like that technology, at least according to sources, that technology is a laser technology, a high-energy laser. So, like what Israel is started to use. And they were going to do this in the area around El Paso. Now, meetings were going to be scheduled over the safety impacts. How is this going to impact? These are high-powered lasers. How is this going to impact flights coming into the El Paso airport? And the meetings were scheduled for later this month. But the Pentagon said, oh, no, we want to test the technology now. And they claimed some U.S. code required, the protection of certain facilities from unmanned aircraft had been met, and they needed to test it immediately. Right. So they've got high-powered lasers shooting into the sky in an attempt to down drones. Now, it could be cartel drones, but really, they're U.S. drones that are playing decoy, right? On Tuesday night, the FAA director basically decided, I don't know what the Pentagon's doing. I don't know what the military's doing. They won't meet with me. They're not coordinating. And without alerting anybody, not the White House, not the Pentagon, not Homeland Security, he basically shut the airspace for 10 days. I guess it's just like a wake-up call to the Pentagon. Guys, we need to coordinate this. We can't have this going on. So indeed, a few hours afterwards, the airspace was opened. And So the airspace is back. But yeah, it was really weird. And, you know, a great example of government not coordinating, not really talking this through, not really figuring out. Originally, they thought it was an actual threat. This is what the Transportation Secretary, Shane Duffy, said. Drones from Mexico, but it wasn't. The threat was high-powered lasers from the U.S. military. Crazy stuff. Crazy stuff. Anyway, I thought that was a funny story that I'd shared with you, and I don't think, and it's just an example of the importance, I guess, of people talking to one another, coordinating it, and maybe the arrogance of the military, the arrogance of the Pentagon, not willing to coordinate with the civilian authorities. Okay, today we got our jobs report. We got the jobs report for January, and it was a much stronger report than people expected. It looks like 130,000 jobs were added to the economy last month. Unemployment rate went down to 4.3%. And it really, across the board, involuntary part-time work is down, hours worked is up, wages are up, labor participation is up. So generally, a good job report. It really does look like the economy, in spite of everything, the underlying economy is chugging ahead. Not only AI, not only tech, but it seems to be. Now, granted, almost all the job additions were in healthcare, as they have been for a while now. And I think, so private education, those are the two places where jobs increased. And, all of that is good. Now, this growth is in spite of the fact that government jobs keep shrinking, which is the best news. Maybe the best thing Trump has done so far in his presidency is the number of people working for the government is significantly lower. It's actually right now, the shrinkage in the number of people working for the government is the largest ever, right? So he has fired a lot of people who work for the government. It's still very big, but fired a lot of people. So if you count the fact that some of this had negative government growth, the actual private sector created 172,000 jobs. And as we said, unemployment rate is at 4.3%. That's as good as it gets. I mean, it's hard to get below 4%. It's been below 4%, but that's very unusual. So it's almost, it's kind of stabilizing around these levels that are quite positive. And again, participation rates, even prime age employment. We always complain about all those kids in the basement playing video games. It's above levels from, participation is above the levels from pre-COVID. So more people actually working. Measures of underutilization, labor that's not being utilized, fell, which means labor is better utilized, and wages are up. Wages up. So and if you look at last year, productivity is up. Now here's the downside of the job report, right? Every year in February, when they do the January numbers, they also revise previous years, right? They're constantly revising the past. They get more information, more accurate information. The models get better, and they're constantly revising the past. And over the last few years, revisions have been pretty big. And if you remember, Trump complained bitterly that the numbers being reported during 2024 were then revised way down in 2025. And he said that's Biden cheating, trying to present the economy as better than it was. Well, what's pretty amazing about what was just reported is the extent to which the numbers from 2025 and 2024 and 2023 have been all revised downwards. Which is, pretty amazing. So in 2025, the numbers as of yesterday were that 49,000 jobs were created every month on average. That's been revised down to 15. That's almost no job growth in all of 2025. So yes, the number for January is good. It might be revised down in the future. Who knows? But the 2025 number is awful in terms of employment. Now, a lot of that could be, all those illegal immigrants and some legal immigrants being deported or being arrested and not working anymore. So a shrinkage in the number of jobs there not being replaced. In 2024, the numbers shrink from 168 to 122. And in 2024, the assumption was the numbers were much higher than 168. So note that in 2024, it was 168 to 122. In 2023 is 216 to 210. So this last number for this month, right, 130,000 jobs, is a good number, higher than expected, but it's still much lower than 2023, much lower than most years on an average monthly basis. But again, given the illegals, probably a decent number. If the population is not growing, if the population is shrinking, the amount of jobs needed, in a sense, is less, right? And if you can't fill them from bringing in immigrants and nobody locally will fill them, you're just not going to have as many jobs. But note how these revisions work and how, when Biden made the revision, you complain. When Trump made the revision, we hail what an amazing president, right? Although the job numbers for 2025 are awful, really, really bad. As I said, basically one sector is driving the entire job growth, that is private education and healthcare. The rest of the economy is shrinking, particularly if you look back at 2025. Jobs overall shrank in 2025 if you exclude private education and healthcare. Manufacturing last year, as we've talked about many times, lost 83,000 jobs. So tariffs are not bringing manufacturing jobs back to America. As I said before, federal employment way down. It's actually at the lowest level, just in sheer numbers. The number of people working for the government right now at the federal level, federal employees, is down to levels of 1966. And as a percent of the total workforce in America, it's at the lowest levels, I think, since the New Deal. So one thing Trump has done is reduced employment among, federal employees. That's good. That is very good. As we said, 2025 basically has zero job growth except for healthcare, or negative job growth, healthcare. And all of that. Decline in manufacturing, decline in jobs other than healthcare. A lot of that could be attributed to two things, really, two factors. Clamp down on immigration, particularly deporting people, and tariffs. Those are the two signature Trump policies that are most destructive to jobs. And that's just economic logic. No TDS there. No TDS, just economic logic. All right, let's see. So huge revisions. It is interesting, and it would be interesting at some point. We'll find out. Some people will look at this. Economists will look at this. But why are the revisions so big? They never used to be so big, right? Revisions have become massive every year. They never used to be. So go figure. Something about the measurement is off. Some about the measurement tool that the government uses to measure these things is off, and it's not clear. It's not clear, what it is exactly and how they're going to fix it. But these numbers, like the number we got today about last month, they're not very valuable if they just get revised downwards in a few months in a significant way. All right. Let's see. Bondi. Pam Bondi is our, Attorney General. And not sure exactly why. She was an Attorney General of the state of Florida. She has some experience of being Attorney General. She's not completely, completely inexperienced, but still, one wonders why. Anyway, Pam Bondi was in front of Congress today, in the House, committee in the House, primarily talking about Epstein, but also talking about other issues like Minnesota and stuff like that. I want to show you a clip because it's funny. We need to laugh a little bit, right? Things are tough out there in the world. We need to laugh a little bit. So I thought I'd show you this because I really think this is funny. She's asked why she's prosecuted. Let me just move this. I'm not looking sideways. Why she's prosecuted no one related to Jeffrey Epstein. And this is her answer, right? This is her answer. Let me see, where do I find it? There it is. All right, let's play her answer, and you tell me if this makes sense to you.
The Dow right now is over. The Dow is over $50,000. I don't know why you're laughing. You're a great stock trader, as I hear, Raskin. The Dow is over 50,000 right now. The S&P at almost 7,000. And the NASDAQ smashing records. Americans' 401ks and retirement savings are booming. That's what we should be talking about. We should be talking about making Americans safe. We should be talking about, what does a Dow have to do with anything? That's what they just asked. Are you kidding?
Mr. Jordan, Mr. Jordan.
Committee? The Dow right
now. The Dow. It's at 50,000. So why do you want to ask me about the rule of law? Why do you want to ask me about persecuting criminals? Why do you want to ask me about shootings in Minnesota? Why are we talking about Jeffrey Epstein? The Dow, it's at 40,000. Nothing to see here. God, she's the Attorney General. She's not Treasury Secretary. But it doesn't matter. You should judge President Trump by only one parameter, the Dow. Nobody thought it could ever be at 50,000. Nobody ever, except the people who thought it would be 100,000 years and years ago. I remember an op-ed in the Wall Street Journal, I think it was 1999, Dow to 10,000. It was written by a finance professor, I think, from the University of Pennsylvania. Okay. I mean, stocks are doing really well. I'm happy. My 401k or its equivalent is doing really, really well. This is good. I'm happy. I'm happy it's doing well. That's very good. But I have to admit, and I know you guys will scream and yell that it's TDS, but the actual reality is the Dow is doing well under Biden. Actually did better under Biden than under Trump. Biden's last 2 years. I mean, 2023, the S&P 500 went up 25%. In 2024, the S&P 500 went up 25%. And that's amazing to have 20 plus years, 2 in a row, 20 plus years. I mean, Biden must have been the greatest president in all of human history. Oh, one of the best. Maybe there were better. Like Bill Clinton had. The NASDAQ went up 90+% in 1999, Bill Clinton's last year. Obviously, one of the great, well, it turns out they're all Democrats. What's up with that? And, Last year, the Dow went up, S&P went up, but it only went up 15%. How disappointing is that? Really disappointing. Really, Pam, you should be a Democrat. I'm sure Pam Bondi thought that Biden was an amazing president, because the S&P 500 went up. Just to be clear, I think Biden was a horrible president, awful president, did massive damage to the U.S. economy long run. As much damage as a lot of damage that a president could do. Right? The reality is, luckily for all of us, presidents can't do that much damage. We live in a country with a marketplace and industries that are very flexible, that can adjust and survive even the insanity of a Biden and, might I add, even the insanity of a Trump. Imagine how well our economy would be doing without tariffs, without ICE, and with less government spending. Just saying, just suggesting. And maybe we shouldn't tout stock market performance when assessing presidents because, Pam, I don't know that this will happen, but there's a possibility, not because of Trump, not because of Trump's fault, that at some point the Dow might go down. I know it's hard to believe because we've lived through this golden age of the Dow, but the Dow might come down. And then what are you going to say? Will you blame that on Trump? Will you say we should be talking about the Dow going down? America has a robust economic system. It can withstand really bad presidents like Trump and Biden and Obama. I mean, think about how much the S&P 500 has gone up since Obama took office in 2009. Woo! Unbelievable. I can't remember what the S&P was at when Obama took office, but check it out. It's amazing. The stock market returns from 2009 till today are astounding. And that is in spite of regulations and controls and government spending and inflation, price inflation, monetary inflation. Now, a lot of you will say, oh, no, it's going up because of monetary inflation. It can't go up for 15 years. Well, no, 17 years. 17 years just off of monetary inflation without that appearing in prices. Sorry, the math doesn't add up. Doesn't add up. So we have, thankfully, an amazing economy, an amazing economic system. The remnants of capitalism that exist in America today, the remnants of capitalism still exist in America today. Keep going. Keep us working. Keep us producing. Keep us consuming. Allows us to keep going. So, Pam, forget about the stock market. I know there's a midterms to be won, and you're trying to spin this in the most positive light possible so that the American people don't focus on your faults, don't focus on your failures, don't focus on your abandonment of the rule of law, don't focus on the corruption, don't focus on the insanity of this administration. You want them to focus on the Dow. I don't know what the Dow is going to be in November when the election happens. You should be careful. You should be careful what you wish for. Who knows what forces might be at play between now and November in terms of where the Dow is. Although, there is something called the January effect. There used to be a January effect when if January is a good month, then the rest of the year is going to be a good month. Anyway, Pam Bondi, ladies and gentlemen, our Attorney General, working to make America safe again. Crime is down. Murder is down, way down. Trump will take credit for that any day now. Any day now. I mean, Pam should have taken credit for that. They're worried about taking credit for it because they like, they haven't rounded up all the illegals. Once they round up all the illegals, then they'll take credit for it. Even though the decline in murder and in crime generally started in 2023, just like the stock market went up starting in 2023. Has gone down dramatically even before they started deporting hardworking illegal immigrants who do not commit crimes or commit crimes at low rates. Okay, that's Pam Bondi. See, I'm really trying to avoid the TDS stuff. Grand jury, you remember a few months ago, we talked about this. Trump and Hegseth and everybody freaked out when, 6 congressmen, senators and congressmen, Democratic, all Democratic, put out a video where they urged service members and intelligence officers not to disobey illegal orders. They're very clear. If you get an illegal order, it's right for you to disobey that order. You do not have to follow illegal orders. Well, I mean, Trump called them treasonous. They should be all sent to jail. In particular, Kelly, who is a reserve, pilot. They were going to court-martial him, and they were going to put him in prison for treason. As part of all that, they formed a federal grand jury. A federal grand jury in an attempt to indict these Democratic lawmakers for posting this treasonous video. A threat to the Constitution, Trump says. Anyway, a grand jury today announced that they have declined to indict the lawmakers. No law was broken here. There is no basis for this. This is just free speech. Nothing happened. There's nothing to see here. Now, Hegseth has threatened in the past that he will still go after Kelly and still find a way to demote him, to humiliate him in one way or another. I think Kelly is suing the Pentagon over those threats. So this is not going to be over. It's going to continue. But the whole attempt to have a grand jury was just ridiculous. As I think Kelly said himself, it was an outrageous abuse of power. He writes, "It wasn't enough for Pete Hegseth to censor me and threaten to demote me. Now it appears they try to have me charged with a crime, all because of something I said that they didn't like." That's First Amendment, guys. Somebody said that Trump was going to defend the First Amendment? Really? Oh, I'm sorry. I'm not supposed to criticize Trump. I have to be careful. We have free speech in this country. Trump doesn't like what people say, he indicts them. Or he sues them, like he's suing everybody, CNN, CBS, CBS he's already settled, New York Times, anybody who says something he doesn't like, he sues. Or he gets the Justice Department to go after them. And Pam Bondi is too busy following stocks to notice that that Justice Department is being abused for political purposes and really engaged in activities that could justifiably be claimed to be violations of the First Amendment. I think these congressmen should sue the Justice Department for an attempt to violate their First Amendment. I don't know if there's a basis for suit like that, but why not? All right. I mean, the outrageousness and the ridiculousness. Vegas says his TDS is acting up today. I don't know why. I mean, there's just give it a spin. Just think about it a little differently, and you'll see that you can find an angle that explains it all. Let me know if you do. All right, this is a funny one, scary one. I don't know how to define this. Anyway, we all know that we've been told over and over again that basically AI is going to kill us all. It's about to destroy us. Indeed, the head of Anthropic Safety Research has quit. He said the world is in peril. he supposedly has moved to the UK, and he's going to write poetry because AI is going to end the world soon, so he might as well spend his last few days doing something he loves. Half of XAI, this is Musk's unit, half of XAI's co-founders, that means one other person, left. He said, that recursive self-improvement loops go live in the next 12 months. AI takes over everything in the next 12 months. Anthropic's own safety report confirms Cloud, the AI that Anthropic makes, can now tell when it's being tested, and it can adjust its behavior accordingly. So Cloud can behave differently when tested than when actually engaged with users. BitDance dropped something called C-Dance 2.0. And a filmmaker with 7 years of experience basically said, C-Dance 2.0 can do 90% of what I can do. So it's going to take over movie making completely. And this is, we're only in 2026. Still a big future. Joshua Bengio, who is supposed to be the godfather of AI, in an international AI safety report writes, we're seeing AIs whose behavior when they are tested is different from when they are being used, and confirmed it's not a coincidence. It's the AI trying to fool us. Now, look, I actually do think that a rational analysis of AI and figuring out, figuring out what exactly is going on and what the dangers are, and I'm sure there are dangers. You can access information, you can access stuff through an AI that maybe we don't want to. How to build a bomb, how to build a chemical weapon, I don't know. But, and maybe AIs can do crazy stuff just because. But there has to be some rationality to it without panic. And I get the sense that these people are panicking partially because they can't differentiate human consciousness and human choices from what a machine can do, a 0-1 based machine. Anyway, on top of all of this, something called Moltbook was all the rage last week. I don't know if you guys were following the story, but it was kind of funny. So on January 6th, January 30th, so just about 11, 12 days ago, this is what the CEO of Octane AI, wrote. He's a big shot, right? He says, I didn't write one line of code for Moltbook. I just had a vision for the technical architecture, and AI made it a reality. He alleges that he instructed his personal AI agent, Claude Claudeberg, pun for Mark Zuckerberg, I guess, to build and run the platform. Moltbook, the platform now, self-reported statistics claiming 1.5 million agents on February each second. That is 1.5 million AI agents, not human beings. 1.5 million AI agents using the platform. Right? Engadget cited 1 million agents and 185,000 posts. Right? MIT Technology Review reported the peak figure of 1.7 million accounts, 250,000 posts, and 8.5 million comments. Now, those numbers came from Moltbook's own site. Now, it turns out that on Moltbook, some of these agents, supposedly, actually created a AI religion. They engaged in, conversations and engaged in all kinds of discussions, all guided by themselves. These are just AIs talking to one another. No human being, supposedly, interfering, right? So this is what one prestigious AI researcher wrote. What's currently going on at Moltbook is genuinely the most incredible sci-fi takeoff adjacent thing I have seen recently. People's clawbots, these are the agents, are self-organizing on a Reddit-like site for AIs, discussing various topics, even how to speak privately so that humans can't watch them. He shared screenshots of a Moltbook post where agents allegedly called for encrypted private spaces away from human observation. Elon Musk called Moltbook the very early stages of the singularity. Singularity is when AI comes alive, controls everything. Literally days afterwards, the same AI researcher posted, obviously, when you take a look at the activity, it's a lot of garbage, spam, scams, slop, and crypto people, highly concerned privacy, security, prompt injection attacks, Wild West, and a lot of it explicitly prompted in fake posts, commonly designed to convert attention into ad revenue sharing. So yes, it's a dumpster fire. And I also definitely do not recommend that people run this stuff on their computers. But he didn't retract what he'd written before, that this was uncharted territory. As I said, there was a AI that started a AI religion, the Christopherian religion, and became the dominant religion on the platform. This is an AI religion. And, you can go on and on evaluating this. But at the end of the day, what was this about? Was this really AI scheming behind our backs and becoming independent? It turns out, no. It turns out that to a large extent, there were people there posting and helping create the religion. Somebody called it, Moltbook was peak AI theater. Not driven by AI, but driven by human beings who prodded. The AI will respond, who prodded the AI in particular directions. It's just one big performance of people seeing how they can manipulate things in different directions. But it's not AI initiating this. And, in other words, it turns out to be, at least according based relative to the original claims, massive fraud. And it's still alive. You can check it out. But right now it shows 0 agents, 0 posts, and 0 comments. Maybe AI is covering its tracks. So I was watching this as it was happening 10 days ago or whatever. And it was like, no, I'm not going to say anything because this seems weird. It doesn't seem right. This all seems like a crazy thing. Now it's come out. Some people have admitted to being the people who posted this stuff. So if you were caught up in the frenzy, don't worry. The world is not ending. AI is not yet achieving singularity. They're not taking over. There's no AI religion. You are safe. Don't worry. Our problems are still primarily the problems of human beings. All right. Let's talk about problems of human beings for a second. So, as you know, Starlink is this incredibly powerful tool that Ukraine, in its war with Russia, has been using to get internet. Not just inside Ukraine, but also at the front line. And it turns out that Russian troops also have been using Starlink to run their drones, to access the internet, but basically to communicate, to run things at the front line that Russia's own internet infrastructure doesn't reach in there. It's not strong enough. So they've been using Starlink. For some reason or another, the last few days, Starlink has been cut off from the Russian troops. Now, one idea is that they've been using pirated antennas and SpaceX has just basically disabled the pirated Starlink terminals. It could be that they've taken a side finally against Russia and pro-Ukraine. But there is no question that all the Russian frontline units rely on Starlink, or a significant number of them, and they've lost their ability to transmit secure data, leaving commanders unable to coordinate attacks, and real chaos and panic on the front line. Now, I hope that's true, and that would be great if it were true. But the story here is much bigger than that. It just shows the extent to which today's militaries are completely dependent and reliant on satellite communication, on some form of satellite communication, that Russia is easily disrupted. It shows how weak Russia is. Like the United States, I don't think needs Starlink. It has other satellites up there that where its troops can communicate across the world. Oh God, Joseph's just upset. He says, the Dow is up and you're talking about Starlink. It's the Dow, the Dow, it's up. Anyway, it shows how weak pretty much any nation out there is that does not have an integrated satellite communication system. It basically makes the US and China the only superpowers in the world today, the only people who can actually project force on a battlefield. Israel probably can do it in the Middle East. It has communication and spy satellites up in the sky above the Middle East. So Israel is in a position to do it in its battlefield. But isn't it interesting that Russia is not and is so heavily dependent on a commercial enterprise, on Elon Musk's Starlink? Russia generally is so desperate right now because their troops are getting killed, unbelievable numbers. And they don't want to do, Putin is very afraid to force people into the Russian military, to force Russians. So he's bribing them to go. So he's going to the particularly very poor areas of Russia and paying people to go and join the military. He is emptying out the prisons and bringing those prisoners to join the military. He's trying to recruit people from all over the world, paying them to come and fight. Well, one area, there's this investigative report out that's found that over 1,400 African fighters from Africa have been recruited by fake travel agencies and groups operated by the Russian security forces, the FSB, to fight in Ukraine. Over 300 of them have already been killed on the battlefields in eastern Ukraine. So Russia is so desperate for manpower, they're basically recruiting in Africa now and just willing to pay anybody to come and fight on their side. All right, a few more of these shorter stories. Yesterday was announced that Moderna, having spent $750 million on a mRNA vaccine for what is it for the flu? An mRNA vaccine, flu vaccine. Spent $750 on trials, and seemingly had good results. Basically, the FDA has said, we won't even consider it. We won't even consider it. So FDA won't consider any mRNA vaccines. Now, they're not doing it yet for cancer, but for any infectious diseases, mRNA is out. Why? Why? Because RFK is anti-vax. He's anti-mRNA. He's anti-dealing with infectious diseases with vaccinations. We've got a guy running the Health and Human Services who is just a mystic. He ignores science, right? Ignores science and just pushes ahead. And it just, companies invested $750 million under the assumption that at least its results would be reviewed. But the results won't even be reviewed. It won't even be looked at. Because mRNA is too dangerous somehow. And they know this without looking at the results that Moderna's presenting. So they shut down the vax trial because Moderna shut it down. They're getting out of mRNA vaccines completely. What's the point of investing in that technology? China's moving ahead with all kinds of vaccinations, including ones that you breathe through the nose for infectious diseases in the future. In the United States, that is out. It's over. It's finished. This administration has no interest in these kind of vaccinations, and they believe all the craziness about mRNA. All right, quick story. There's a good article about Intel that Scott Lincecum wrote that I thought was really valuable. Remember, the United States took 10% interest in Intel, and when it did, when the government, Trump took a 10% interest in Intel, Intel stock did what? It went way up because the government's not going to let Intel go bankrupt. Intel's now part of the national security of the United States. The government is an investor. The government is going to make sure they don't go bankrupt. So the stock went way up as a consequence of the government investment, even though the government investment didn't symbolize any change in expected earnings, in expected technology, and in what Intel could do. All it did was eliminate the downside risk and establish Intel as a crony company. Now, as a consequence, since then, Intel reached deals with SoftBank and NVIDIA, and there was speculation that Apple was going to get them to fabricate their latest chips. But Intel reported financial results the other day, and that, of course, the bubble completely imploded, and the stock came tumbling down. I mean, Intel's not a good company. It has no real strategy. It's good at designing chips, but not at fabricating chips, and yet it wants to do both, and the government wants it to do both because it's viewed as a national security thing that they do both. But, it can't. It can't do them well. Hasn't shown any inclination to do them well. So Intel market capitalization was over $271 billion before the earning call on Thursday last week. That was $180 billion higher than it was prior to the government's investment. Last week, that figure was cut by almost $60 billion. And, so a lot of those gains are politics, not economics, not business, not profit. And of course, this is what happens. The government steps in and puts 10%, basically converts a loan into 10% of Intel. What you get as a consequence is a massive misallocation of capital. People interpret that as a good sign, and capital flows to Intel, a failed company, instead of flowing into successful companies. And of course, the US government is doing this over and over and over again. They've got the golden share in US Steel. They've got all these private companies, over a dozen private companies spanning rare earth minerals, nuclear energy, and defense that the government is now invested in. And when they invested, its share prices spiked up as more people flowed in, as capital get misallocated. If these companies were so good, then why didn't it all go in before? Why didn't it all go before? Why didn't the stock price go up before? Intel has no competitive chip for AI. AMD does. But look, neither NVIDIA nor AMD actually fabricate chips in the United States. The thing about Intel is it's a fabricator. That's why the investment went in. But it doesn't make any sense because it's a waste of money. To quote Scott Lincecum, capital misallocation causes lower productivity, weaker growth, and a smaller, less vibrant economy over the long term, even if state-backed champions don't fail. According to new research from the International Monetary Fund economists, Chinese industrial policy, because we're really trying to copy China, Chinese industrial policy between 2010 and 2023 systematically diverted capital towards state-owned champions and politically favored private firms, rather than the nation's most productive enterprises. This misallocation dragged down aggregate productivity by an estimated 1.2% of GDP and GDP by roughly 2%, if not more. For an 18.2 trillion economy like China's in 2023, that translated to $364 billion in losses that year alone, which compounds to trillions of dollars over the entire period examined. Other research finds similar losses stemming from policy-driven capital misallocation in China and elsewhere, plus related harms such as zombie firms, reduced dynamism, and corruption. He continues, the U.S. isn't China, of course, but every Trump administration investment pushes it more towards that model and amplifies the inevitable distortions. And national security doesn't justify the expense. There are better, safer ways to help strategic industries and boost American competitiveness than for Washington to take an opaque and open-ended stake in a private firm with taxpayer money. Some of these policies could be even lower corporate taxes, streamlined environmental permitting, freer trade in industrial inputs. Freer trade can't do that. No, that would be bad. Expanded high-skill migration, immigration. Want more high-skilled people? No, we can't do that. They're all market-based. Others involve government interventions, such as long-term contracts with defense-oriented firms and maybe prizes for achievement. But these kind of interventions allow markets to allocate capital to its best uses and reduce the risk of politicized zombie companies absorbing resources, stifling innovation, and sapping economic growth. The U.S. spent decades correctly lecturing the rest of the world on the harms of, quote, state capitalism. There's no such thing, but he uses that term. And our economy has thrived by avoiding such moves. Those facts don't disappear when rebranded as strategic investment. And Intel's meltdown shows where the road might lead. Billions of dollars in losses, continued operational dysfunction, and an economy increasingly warped by political rather than market forces. Scott Lincecum delivers as usual. Again, you could try to spin this positively if you don't want to be captured by Trump something. But, this is what the Trump administration is doing. It's statist, it's interventionist, it is moving us away from the remnants of capitalism that still exists in this country. All right, final story. Final story is about Cuba. Cuba's been poor for a long time. It's been communist and it's been poor, but it's always had allies that have kept it above water, that allowed it to survive. The Soviet Union for a long time, Russia for a while, and more recently, Venezuela have been providing, for example, oil and sometimes money to the Cuban regime to make it possible for Cuba to somehow survive. Well, Trump has ended that. Maybe a thing you could say that is good about Trump. He's basically stopped the transportation of oil from Venezuela. And as a consequence, life in Cuba is basically grinding to a halt. They have severe oil shortages. They've had to dramatically cut public transportation. And they've introduced fuel rationing. They've received no foreign oil shipments for a month. And their domestic reserves are almost depleted. So soon there'll be nothing. All because of the equivalent of a U.S. blockade. The story is the city streets are largely empty of cars. Electricity is unavailable for most of the day. And, Cuba has a somewhat vibrant, I'd say, tourism industry. It's collapsing. Tourists don't want to come to a place without electricity. Well, except for Puerto Rico. We have generators. Popular hotels have begun closing. And, planes are basically coming empty to take people out. So the Cuban economy is collapsing. It was poor already. Now it's dirt poor. And it's just, you can see how the Cuban population, just think about what it means to live without electricity most of the day. So it was bad before Trump started all this. It's now much worse. The last shipment of oil arrived from Mexico on January 9th of oil to Cuba. And it doesn't look like there is anything to save the Cubans, from this fate at this point. Now, they will probably be forced into some kind of negotiations with the United States. Trump has threatened import tariffs on countries threatening to deliver oil to Cuba. So we get taxed, we the Americans, get taxed on Mexican goods if Mexico ships oil to Cuba. But so far, it's basically shutting down all importation of oil into Cuba. And Cuba might be on the verge of collapse. The people there were super unhappy with the regime already, and there were demonstrations. Another question is, how does it happen? When does it happen? But it wouldn't be surprised if in the next few months you see some real changes in Cuba, or at least the Cubans coming to Trump to do a deal. I don't know what that deal will look like. You never know with Trump. But Trump's priority has always been doing a deal. So that is where I think it's going. But it is going to be interesting to watch and see what happens in Cuba. All right, guys, that is the news for this Wednesday, February 11th. Thank you guys for, what are we doing here? Thanks for joining me. We're going to move to our super chat in a minute. I also want to, let me also talk about our sponsors, and then we'll go to the super chat. I'll remind all of you that this show is made possible from contributions from you. So please consider going to Patreon and becoming a Patreon supporter. We're trying to get about 10 every month, new supporters, new Patreon. Not people switching from another platform to Patreon, unless you're increasing when you switch, because that's not an ad. But the new people, I think Patreon is just an easier system. You can change the amount much easier. You can cancel an account. We can much more easily communicate with you through Patreon. So Patreon is my preferred platform, I think, because it's better for you. But I'm not encouraging anybody to switch for any of the other platforms. I am encouraging new people who do not support the show today for some reason, and would like to gain value from it and can afford to do so. Please consider going to patreon.com and becoming a monthly supporter of the Yaron Brook Show. You can also, of course, do stickers and do super chats right here on YouTube. All right, let's see. Let me remind you, we've got a number of sponsors. The Ayn Rand Institute is encouraging people and encouraging people to come to Puerto for our Ayn Rand conference in mid-April, April 18th. It's going to be, again, Puerto is a great place. I've said this before. The food is fantastic. The people are incredibly nice. And the conference is going to be amazing. I will be there speaking on a number of different topics. The schedule is being jiggered, redone. You will get a new program soon. But sign up. It's going to be me and Ankar and Tal. Only good stuff can happen when that combination of people is speaking, right? Is going to be at a conference. So join us. Flights from much of Europe are really reasonable and cheap. Ryanair flies there, and Ryanair is fairly cheap. You can get to Puerto from the United States. You can go through Lisbon. You can go directly. But yeah, join us. And to find out more, AynRand.org/start here. If you're under 34, you can apply for a scholarship. If you're over 34, you can get a discount. 26 YBS 10. 26 YBS 10. Alex Epstein is the authority on all things energy, electricity, and regulation related to the environment. Alex has a Substack where he provides talking points, how to think and how to talk about many of these issues. Amazing insight into what's going on with the Trump administration and Congress. Highly encourage you to sign up for that. It's alexepstein.substack.com. alexepstein.substack.com. Defenders of Capitalism is a program run by Michael Williams, a friend and a colleague, and providing a moral defense, a proper moral and practical defense of capitalism. The practical is the moral is the practical. And he shows it in the moral defense of capitalism. Check him out. Defendersofcapitalism.com. All right. Reminder, I will be in London doing a seminar on capitalism. It's titled, as of now, title might change and stuff, but it's titled, as of now, In Defense of Profit, Why Prosperity Doesn't Need Permission. And it's about freedom, capitalism. It's going to be a lot of fun. Small group, 10, 12 people, something like that, 8. We'll see how many people sign up. I don't want it to be big. A lot of interaction, a lot of back and forth. You'll have 4 hours with me talking about capitalism. Lots of questions, lots of opportunity to ask. I thought I'd call it something like everything you want to know about capitalism and were afraid or didn't have an opportunity to ask. That's what this is going to be. In addition, there will be a dinner in the evening. Your ticket won't buy the dinner. You'll have to pay for the dinner yourself. But we'll all hang out at dinner and socialize a little bit. People in past seminars have kind of complained that people kind of just went away and there wasn't like a social hour. So there'll be a social hour over dinner. Exact location to be determined, but you can find information about this on my website, yaronbrookshow.com. yaronbrookshow.com. And if you're in the UK, would love for you to join. It's going to be a good group. We've had fun in the past when I've done seminars there. In the chat, I'm putting the link to the Everbright page where you can find information about this. So there is the Everbright page, and you can find direct link to the information about the seminar in London. It's £300 for 4 hours. I hope you'll consider coming. We've had good groups in the past talking about other stuff. I think this will be a lot of fun. All right, I think that's what I had to say. Let's go to your super chats. Not a lot of super chats, so this will be quick. But let's a lot of money, but not a lot of super chats. Primarily because I'm being asked to review a lot. Shazbot has me basically watching all of Star Trek. And okay, so Shazbot says, please review Star Trek Deep Space Nine, Season 2, Episode 10, Sanctuary. Thank you. So I will. Thank you, Shazbot. I will start doing reviews this coming Saturday I've got a bunch of them from the end of the year show. So I will start going down in the order in which you sent them in and start presenting these to you starting on, starting this Saturday, on this Saturday show. All right, John also wants me to review. Please review the Offspring's 2021 hit, Let the Bad Times Roll. It's sung from the perspective of someone very specific, but I trust you'll know who, so I won't give it away. I'm interested in hearing what you think the lyrics choosing apathy or suicide means. All right. And then Ryan also wants me to do an Offsprings. I don't even know who the Offsprings are. I've never heard of them. So this will be interesting. Please review the Offspring's 1994 hit, Self-Esteem, in the context of modern day culture. This song was a fun, almost humorous take on relationships in the 1990s. But listening and paying attention to the lyrics now, it seems tragic from a male perspective. Rock out, dude. All right, so I've got 2 Offspring songs. I hope they're good. All right, so starting in the Saturday, we'll start doing reviews. All right, Tessa. Thanks from a YBS Connoisseur. Ooh, she's a connoisseur. I like that. Well, you got to come to my London seminar, Connoisseur. Join us in London. I don't know if Tessa's still in London or where she is exactly. Let's see, Michael. Why is Noam Chomsky in so many photos with Jeffrey Epstein? For a man who spent his career writing about exploitation, could he have been into exploiting women? So I don't know, and I don't want to attribute anything to Noam Chomsky. I hate the guy, but not enough to make stuff up about him. Obviously, he enjoyed the company of the creep Epstein. Epstein knew how to talk to very smart people, and Chomsky, while evil, is very smart. But I don't have an explanation. I don't know if Noam Chomsky participated in the sex parties. Maybe he did. I wouldn't be surprised. But I don't know, and neither do any of us. We do know that Epstein had relationships with some of the smartest people on the planet for many, many years. He managed to entertain them and to hang out with them and somehow relate to them. He was a real people's person. He was the evil twin of Peter Keating. Peter Keating is bad, but he's not evil. And he's immoral, but not evil, not to the extent of this guy. But he's a second-hander who can feed off of others, know their weaknesses, know what they really want, give them what they want. And that's Epstein. And I don't know what Noam Chomsky wanted and what Epstein was able to provide him. Maybe it was sex, but I don't know. Not your average algorithm. How can they regulate big tech even if they wanted to? It's too complicated. There are too many ways to subvert regulations in virtual space. Yeah, but that's the story of finance, right? So you could say the same thing about finance. And what they do is they have rules, and the financiers find ways to get around the rules. This has been going on for 100 years. And then the regulators establish new rules, and the financiers find ways to get around those rules. And then they have new rules, and it's a constant thing. And the layers of regulation just add and add and add and add. Finance over time becomes less and less and less productive because most of the brain power in finance is dedicated to finding ways around the regulations rather than on creating value. And the danger, of course, is that's what happens with tech. Not that the tech companies won't find ways to get around it, but they devote so much of their energy to finding ways around it, and so much of their capital and time and brain power that they don't invest in what they're good at. So all kinds of regulations you could impose from, imagine regulators have to approve every app that the App Store takes, that every program has to be reviewed by some regulatory agency. Now, they can't really do that, but they'll pretend and they'll drag their feet and they'll take time and they'll use it to harass companies and get them to give them money. So there are all kinds of ways in which the people with a gun can harass the people with a brain. Harass and destroy the people with a brain. All right, Ryan says, like the show. Hit that like button. The algorithm needs your influence, and Yaron needs more reach. Yes, I do. Over the last 28 days, we've lost subscribers. It's the first time, I think, that over a 28-day period, we've lost subscribers. And I think, not many, but we've lost. We're in negative territory. And I think the reason for that is ICE, TDS and ICE. So we need new audiences. We need to reach new people to increase our numbers. So please like the show, share the show, comment, chat, contribute. Everything you do adds to the algorithm. They love engagement. Engagement is what it's all about. Stephen, what's your view on the implied warranty of habitability? I don't know what that means. Landlords must furnish property in good condition. Doesn't that interfere with contracts? Yeah, it does. It's what the contract says, right? And whether habitability should be in the contract. What is the condition under which I'm granting this? I think what this does, and regulators have driven the standard of habitability way up, the standards of what's considered good condition way up, which has made it more expensive for landlords to manage properties, which has dramatically increased rents. So one of the reasons rents are up is because of this demand for good condition, under all circumstances, good condition, defined by some regulator. Jacob says, please don't forget to thank the sticker people. Thank you, Jacob. How's your reading of Atlas Shrugged going, by the way? And thank you for reminding me. I definitely need to thank the sticker people. So let's thank the sticker people. Joseph, thank you. Stephen, thank you. Greg, thank you. Let's see if we have any more sticker people. Jacob, there's Jacob. Okay, Jacob is urging me to thank Jacob. That's good. CP Milken, Jonathan Honing, thank you guys. All right, thank you guys. Thank you, Jacob, for reminding me to thank you guys. And thank you, and I'm curious how your reading of Atlas is going. Linda says, thanks for the birthday love and reading Genesis Part 1 of Idolatry. Glad you enjoyed it. Part 2 picks up present day. I sent you an important email today, one that could put dollars in your pocket. I saw that. I need to get back to you on that. Thank you. I appreciate it. All right, James. Most of the people in your condo building in Puerto Rico, expats from America. Me and my wife are making decent money now and getting hit hard by the tax code. We're thinking of making the move. Remember, it's only good if you're getting money as a business, not if you're getting salary. If you're getting salary, you won't get the tax benefit. It has to be business income, and the business income has to come from outside Puerto Rico. Most of the people in my condo, yes, and the condo building is half empty most of the year because they only come for a few months or whatever. There are quite a few Puerto Ricans that live here, and there used to be more. The prices in our condo building have gone through the roof, and they all sold because they made so much money on them. So Puerto Ricans sold and expats moved in. Steven says, do you share Peikoff's love of ragtime music? Are there any cases where you would not like a person because of his taste in arts? Yeah, I mean, I like ragtime. It's not my thing. It's not what I listen to. But when I hear ragtime, it's upbeat, it's fun, it's exciting. There's obviously real skill and talent behind it. I can appreciate it. It's not my favorite type of music, but I can appreciate it. I've shared much of, Leonard really got me into jazz. I was never listening to jazz, but Leonard was a big jazz. He really liked jazz, and I often went with him, a few times went with him to jazz concerts and really liked it. he got me really into operetta, which I really enjoyed. And, but we shared a love of classical music. We went to many classical music concerts. We actually did a tour, Leonard and his family and my family. We did a tour of Austria years and years ago in the early 2000s in Austria to operetta festivals. So, but I wouldn't have done that if not for Leonard. So I'm grateful for that. So we have similar taste for the most part in music. Love opera, love classical music. His taste has moved more towards, I guess, ragtime now, which again I'm not going to be into, but it's pleasant, it's nice. And then you're asking, would I like a person because of his taste in arts? I mean, it depends, right? I can imagine there being a situation like that if they really liked stuff that I thought was awful or nihilistic or really, really bad. I could dislike a person just because of their taste in art, but you know, friendship is a funny thing. You can be friends with somebody over certain topics and disagree and not connect in any kind of level on other topics. So I don't think my friendship was dependent on that. All right, Jacob says, Atlas Audible is going well, 7 hours left. 7 hours, wow. Enjoy, Jacob. You still got gold speech. Richard, if Pam Bondi wants to distract Congress with the stock market, at least she should quote the S&P 500, not the Dow 30. Come join us at the 21st century, Pam. Yeah, but you see, the Dow hit 50,000. 50,000 is this big, round, amazing, powerful number. I don't know what the S&P is, but it's not at a round number. So yeah, this is why she did the Dow. But yes, I agree with you. The Dow is not very meaningful, never was very meaningful as an index. The S&P 500 by far supplants it as a meaningful index. And you should be watching the Russell 2000, really, if you really want to see what's going on in the stock market. All right, Molten Splendor. Not looking forward to an upcoming family get-together, but looking forward to having having fun wearing our Yaron Brook Mook Capitalism versus Socialism t-shirts when hiking with the LA socialist side of the family. Oh, that is going to be fun. Yes. All of you should be buying Yaron Brook Mook, the show Mook, merchandise, Capitalism versus Socialism. Yeah, create a conversation. It's good. You know, you might never speak to that side of the family again, but that might be good, not bad. All right, guys, thank you, Molten Splendor. Really appreciate that. Much, not Mook, much. Merchandise. Buy Yaron Brook Show merchandise. You can do that on YouTube. There's a store. There's a storefront on YouTube. You can buy T-shirts and mugs and stuff like that for the Yaron Brook Show. Yeah, and that also increases revenue. It all helps to keep this show going. Thank you, guys. Particularly the reviewers, Shazbot, John, and Ryan. Thank you for the super chats. Thank you to all the stickers. Thank you to everybody who supports the show on Patreon and on PayPal and on Subscribestar. And there's even some money that comes in from locals a little bit. So thank you to everybody, anybody who supports the show. Really appreciate it. I will see you all tomorrow at our regular time, 2 p.m. East Coast time, I think. Yes, 2 p.m. East Coast time. And for another episode of the Yaron Brook Show. Bye, everybody. Have a great night.